supervise agencies under its purview. Abubakar Aliyu, Minister of Power, raised the concerns at a public hearing that was organized by the Senate Committee on Power. And I have to say, these hearings, I mean, the Minister of Power was there, the senators that sponsored the bill was there. These public hearings are really, really informative, and they are a chance for everyday Nigerians to meet with their lawmakers and folks who are in power, who make the decisions in all these things, and converse with them. Just that the time that they set them is not conducive for everyone. I would have attended if I wasn't at work, So it's a really good opportunity to engage with lawmakers. So I guess the question now is, if this ends up, it's past the, lawmakers, but still has to be signed, still has to actually become law. Do the states have the capacity to be able to provide power? That's the issue now, because now you're looking at, independent power projects.
All right, hold on 1 second. We've got a slight issue, so let's see if we can just sort that out. You remember, you can keep sending your messages in to 0809 440 981. All right, Rotus, let's see if we can still hear you now.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes. It's
okay. Sorry, where did the things go hazy? Where did I stop?
We just take it from the top.
Okay, fine. So what I was saying was that the Ministry of Power has said that some sections of this new bill will dilute the powers of the ministry to effectively supervise agencies under it. So I think that was said by Abubakar Aliyu, who's the Minister of Power.
Yeah.
You're still with me, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, great. So Senator Gabriel Suswam is the chair of the Senate Committee on Power and sponsor of the bill, and said that if it's passed into law, it will drive investor sentiment and ensure a sustainable sector. Now, the question, and I also praise the fact that we have, these hearings, these open hearings. You're still with me, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. I praise the fact that we have these open hearings where everyday Nigerians can engage with lawmakers, ministers, senators, and so on, in order to discuss these bills. So the only issue with them is the time that they set them up. So, I could have attended this hearing, and if it wasn't for the fact that I was at work, anybody could have attended. And you just sit there and you'll be talking to the minister and senators about these things. So it's really, really great. The issue now, though, is whether or not the states can deliver power, right? It's expensive. It is, capital intensive. We were talking about gas yesterday. I don't know if it will pass, so I have to see whether it will pass. But the thing is, as far as the capacity of the states, I think Lagos State is trying to move ahead on this regard in terms of independent power. But can the rest of the states do it? How many of these states are solvent that have the resources to be able to pour into getting, transmitting their own power? TCN, the Transmission Corporation of Nigeria, needs to be unbundled. So the federal government was saying to possibly unbundle it so that you can get transmission out of the hands of government and into the hands of the states. But what is that going to mean for costs? If states, this is good for competition, or if each state can charge what it wants for power, I think that probably means that power costs go up. If you look at tariffs,
we've got quite low power costs here in Nigeria compared with other countries. Might be part of the factors affecting our electricity supply.
Exactly. I mean, I'm kind of excited about this, though. I have to say, taking this out of the hands of government. There's been this whole talk of restructuring Nigeria and giving states. You're still with me. You can still hear me, right?
Yes. Sir, just go ahead.
Okay. All right. There's still the issue of restructuring. There's the talk of restructuring, giving states more independence. There's the whole VAT matter that's still in courts between Rivers State and the Federal Inland Revenue Service, the FIRS. There's that whole matter. I think Lagos is also joining in there. States want to set their own value-added tax. States want to set their own, tax brackets and tax charges. They want to charge for their own power. They want to be able to have control over their resources, their mineral resources. So there's this whole conversation around, whether or not it's a good idea. I personally support it. I want the states to be more independent, but there are so many states that depend on the federal allocations that I wonder if in the short to medium term, they will be able to survive on their own. You've seen a number, that we just know, look, outside of Lagos, Rivers, Delta, who else? Maybe the Federal Capital Territory. there's only like 4 or 5 states that internally generated revenue is healthy enough to where they don't, they still have to support, they still need support from the federal government. So this power thing is a long journey. And you got to ask yourself, is this with the power being privatized, how many years ago, the disco and so forth, is this bill an admission that just hasn't worked, right? Because if we're supposed to have all these independent discos and, them being able to step in where the federal government hasn't been able to work, would we need this bill? Is this bill an admission that where we have come so far, it hasn't worked? With the Senator Gabriel Suswam saying that it's going to bring investors into the sector. There are already investors into the sector, right? So there's, again, I like it. I do like it. And we'll just have to see whether or not it gets passed into law. But it's a big step in terms of giving states their own leeway to handle power across the country. So, and that could open the door to more independence for the states. We'll see how the tax matters work out later on. It's a very interesting development there. I think you should have you're still with me, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, yep. Great. On the matter of restaurants, there's a screenshot I shared.
Oh, yes, you did. Uh-huh.
Yeah. With the restaurant where I get food from, where they're telling me that, look, sorry, we have to increase prices. And I asked why. And they're saying that, well, their suppliers have doubled their prices. That is, if you think about the food chain and restaurants, when you go to a restaurant to order food, for that food to get on your plates, there are different suppliers that have supplied beef, chicken, fish, all these other things. They all had to transport those things to that particular restaurant.
From the farm to the table is a long journey.
Exactly, from the farms and inbound, the ports, everything. You have to think about the impact of suppliers doubling their costs, because the restaurant has to pay the suppliers to get the food over there. For them to just times 2 their costs, the restaurant doesn't have any choice but to pass it on to the consumer. So you as a consumer, if your place you eat, if prices just jump by 15, 20%, well, what are your options? Well, one, you can say, okay, fine, I can withstand this cost because maybe you really like the food and you keep your order. Or 2, you scale down your order and reduce the amount of food that you get there, commiserate to what you used to spend, but you know that you're getting less. Or 3, I'm not doing this and I'm not ordering food here again. The price increase is too much. So in economic terms, when you see the resources are scarce, money is scarce, inflation is impacting us, those options outside of the very wealthy, people who probably, live in, Banana Island or something, who can keep ordering the same thing, even though the costs are going up. Those number of people are not that many. They're small. So generally, when price increases like this happen, you're going to see volumes affected of these retailers. And it just goes to show how price increases in Nigeria, from inflation to cost of transportation and all this. That's a real world example of a business having to hike its prices because of the business environment. That's heavy. Times for your suppliers to double your costs, that's harsh. That's real harsh.
Well, it's going to be very interesting when we see wheat prices going up, surging. That's now going to have even more of an effect.
It is.
I wonder how many especially when we look at our restaurant industry, just coming off of all the lockdowns, all the policies that stopped indoor dining, all of that. They're finally, it seemed like they were starting to recover, and now they're being hit by even more prices. It's like the aviation. Your example is perfect, and it's almost the same thing with the aviation sector, with everything that they had to deal with. I think they were
I'm trying to decide who was, I think aviation was worse hit, but hospitalities, restaurants, and so on, not far behind. And then entertainment, concerts, and outdoor activities. So that's, for this to happen, for this to be so close to that, it's a really, really tough situation for businesses. So at this point, it filters through, right? It filters through, and it's a problem that they have to deal with going forward. And so they don't have a choice. They have to pass on those numbers to consumers. I think, where are we now? Okay, this is March. We're going to get inflation figures in about, I think, a week or two for February, and we'll see where numbers are, but it's still really high.
All right, now let's end the show with some messages that have come in up on WhatsApp. This message from Engineer Reese says, the states don't need to spend a dime. There are companies that provide embedded distribution and they make the investment. The states only pay them on a per kilowatt hour basis. In the North, companies like Bois Cement, Sokoto have power purchase agreements with such companies. They provide the gas and the generators. Whilst we've got this one in, Gilbert Musa saying, I commend the efforts of the bill for independent power supply, but the big question is the government's sincerity and political will in implementing this project. In 1999, I love it whenever Gilbert Musa sends a message in. Because he goes back in history. In 1999, Lagos attempted an independent power supply with Enron, but it was aborted till date. In 2004, government invested $25 billion on 19 power plants and substations. Do we have stable electricity today? He asks.
Right.
This message in from, I think it's Yinka Bulu on this one. Yes, says, Roses, excited, you say, over constitution amendments. Roses, I expected you to be angry this morning, as in there's no fuel out there. Man hours are being burnt. Queues, that's the real money being lost. And how did they even get fuel to go for the constitutional review session?
Good point. It's ugly. Yesterday was really bad. Yesterday was bad.
Yes, and people have already been sending me messages. They've been in traffic since 4:30. They've been queuing since 4. Some are just at home with no fuel. They've decided it's all right. I have to stay alive to live this life.
But the challenges are just, we're talking about increase in prices. You add your full scarcity. It's so frustrating.
It's mounting.
Yeah, it's just tough. Right. It's tough out there.
Well, Rodas, thanks for joining me for today's episode. Make sure you go and continue your conversation on Twitter. You can find Rotas at Rotanquote. And of course, we are at Smooth981 FM. Rotas, thank you. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Shopper. Take it easy.
Goodbye. And that is that. Coming up, it is smooth music all the way up until 7:30, where it's freshly pressed. Brought to you by EnterSwitch. All right, people. See you 7:30 at Freshly Pressed.